Let's go. Legion. 1, 2, 3, go.
Hi, welcome to the Comic Con Community Podcast, and today myself and Paul are joined by Nicola Wright. Hello, Nicola.
Hello. Nice to see you both. That's a pleasure.
How are we tonight?
We're very good. Ready to
ready to rock and roll.
Things. Yeah, exactly. Film and horror and
So I think the first question is going to be: did you ever always wanted to be an actress? Was it little Nicola's dream?
Funny enough, it was, because, and it probably wasn't quite as mad as an idea as for some children, because my mother had been an actress. So
okay.
I was sort of exposed to the world to a certain extent. She'd stopped acting by the time she had me, but a lot of her friends were still in the business, producers, and my godparents were in it. So, and all her friends were very theatrical, and she took me to sort of the theatre from a very young age. So, my dad wasn't so keen on the idea, but she got me. I never thought of anything else.
Was you running around on sets or at theatres or behind the stage, anything like that as a child? Or
no, she had stopped, but I went to dancing, ballet like at 3, dancing. I was doing acting classes by the time I was probably 7 or 8, like local theatre group. By 12, I was desperate to go to stage school, but my dad was not having any of it. So I got my way at 16. Once I'd done my O-levels, because that's what they were back then, I was off. I wasn't staying a moment longer in mainstream education.
So was it your mum who inspired you, or was it like watching TV, watching films? Was there anybody particular that you looked up to?
I think it was both. I think it was when I was little, it probably was my mum, just that it all seemed very glamorous. I looked at old pictures of, there was loads of photos of her because she, as I said, she was always staged, and she knew some sort of slightly well-known people at the time. So it all just seemed terribly glamorous. And her friends to me were far more fun and glamorous, that lot, than just the rest of them, because they were all very theatrical. I had my, my special uncles and all of that business, which back then most other people were not exposed to quite such a, bohemian type of group of your parents' friends. So I loved them. And then because she took me to the cinema and the theatre from a very young age, I just did love film and theatre. Yeah.
There's nothing like the movies, is there really?
I kind of thought I'd be up there, being a bit musical theatre, but despite the fact I danced, and I certainly danced at Conti's and a little bit into my early career, my singing was not the best. So we parked the musical theatre career quite quickly.
Isn't that the 3 for actresses? Isn't it like singing, dancing, acting?
Yeah, the triple threat, exactly. While you're at drama stage school, because I was at stage school rather than drama school, which would have concentrated on pure drama, I did have to do all 3. I just was not top of the class in the singing department.
So like you said, you're highly experienced across theatre, film, and you've done some voiceovers.
And I was in radio for a while. I did the Archers.
And some radio, Yeah,
I've done it all over the years.
So which has pushed you furthest, creativity-wise? Like, is it?
I think as far as being challenging, as far as pushing you as an actor, I think theatre does. Generally, unless you are a huge star and on a huge film project that you have the luxury of perhaps researching a character for months on end. If you were a big film star, you would have all that. Generally, on more independent productions, you don't have that time, and nobody's paying you to do any research anyway. Or if you're on a big movie, which I have done, but I'm going to be a much smaller part. Whereas in indie, you'll get to play the bigger parts. But theatre, you're usually playing big parts, and that is just part of it. And also just the sustaining a performance for the whole, learning a whole play. You're not learning bite-sized chunks like you are in film. So I think theatre is the most challenging, but I enjoy all of it. Yeah.
How do you have what's the word, like learning your lines? Do you have a way of doing it, or is it just you're just so used to it now? Or
Depends on the
I think because
part.
that's what I would struggle with. I think I would struggle with keeping the lines. And like you said, theatre, it can be every night, can't it? For
It is
weeks
every
on
night.
end or months on end. So, well, yeah. So
Yeah.
there you go. So 2
It's
shows a
muscle
day.
memory. There's a certain amount of, if you use any anything like a sportsman, if you've got to keep practicing. And I think learning lines is definitely something that if you stop doing it for quite big chunks, it's harder. So the more you're just kind of in that mode, because now we also have to learn our lines for self-tapes, which you might not get the job, but you're learning lines. So learning lines is probably something you do, might not be a huge amount, but every week you're probably learning some lines.
Well, we've talked about this with other actors, actresses, about how it's changed now. When you used to go to auditions, now it's all doing the self tapes. Do you find the self tapes easier than actual performing in front of people, or does it not bother you? Or
I think there's pros and cons. I would always prefer to be in the room personally, but the positive of a self-tape is that you can do it in your own time. So say if you have got a job that you're doing, many actors are doing other jobs in the day to pay the bills, and before we would have to drop everything and say, I've got to go into town tomorrow for a casting. So there's more flexibility with a self-tape, but with a self-tape you have to make that choice about how you're going to portray that character, and you're not getting any feedback. So you might make the wrong choice. Clearly you might do it, whereas when you're in the room, and we still do for television, you still do go in the room.
right,
You
okay.
might do the first one perhaps on tape, but when you're in the room, the director will say to you, yeah, great, now can you try it thinking blah blah, and then you show them that you can. So not only might it be that they have a whole different spin on it and you can then show them that, but also that they can see you can take direction. Because with a self-tape, some people could have spent hours and hours just to make that 10 seconds look okay. But the reality is, especially on film, you've got to be adaptable and quick. So
I think as well,
when
the
you're in the room,
negativity of
see
like,
that.
yeah, like you said, the negativity, I think as well is you could be doing hundreds because you don't know what to post, because you're going to analyze yourself.
Yeah,
So you're like
exactly. It's
going,
a nightmare.
that's not good enough. That's not good enough.
Yeah,
That's and then you just
critical.
and then you start overthinking it
Yeah.
and start.
All of that. So really, if you go for an audition, you're in and out 10 minutes
And it's done.
20
Yeah.
minutes, it's done, and move on. Yeah, I prefer it, but it is what it is. We are where we are. And also it was always very London centric, so I guess as well with self-tapes for people who don't live in London, and again, big cities, if they were in Manchester they would have had auditions, but you could be living anywhere and still get your audition in. Pros
So,
and cons.
having starred in dark myth-driven projects like Small Town Witches and Poohniverse, Bambi, what's the biggest challenge of acting along CGI or practical monsters?
Just using your imagination. It's not really a challenge as such, because we're always imagining. Do you understand me? There's always something that's not quite. It's not. You make it as real as you can, but we're always just sort of, I don't know, playing in some way. I think we didn't have much in Small Town Witches, but in Bambi, clearly that was always just a stick with a green bubble on the top that we'd have to go. But you're kind of doing that anyway. I mean, that's just horror, whether you're doing it because there's your mate dressed up as a scary person, and that is practical, but it's still it's still an actor friend, so you're still having to pretend they're scary. So whether it's that or the green bubble.
So how did you get involved in the Poohniverse world?
It was pre-COVID, and I'd worked with somebody on a comedy film, funnily enough, who wrote some films for Scott and Becky at the time for Proportion, and he introduced me to them, and I did the first film for them probably about 6-7 years ago now, and we got on. I got on with both of them immediately.
Yeah, Scott and Reese are great.
Yeah, so Reese wasn't involved at that point.
Oh, right, okay.
Reese came out. So Scott and Becky had a company called Proportion, and then during COVID, they founded their own companies, and Scott had Jagged Edge, and him and Reese got together for Jagged Edge, and Becky formed a separate one called EMRJ. So I've worked with both. In all versions of their production companies. They're all fabulous to work with.
So that universe is much, much bigger in the USA than the UK. Why do you think that is? Do you have an inkling of why? Because like I said, it is really, really big in America.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've not been out there, and I just think we're not sort of so good at perhaps we're quite negative about things over here. Yeah, I don't know. Haven't got an
because
answer
like I said, because Winnie the Pooh's massive over here, but obviously for the childhood, not the actual horror.
Exactly.
So I
maybe
think
that's
there
because
was a lot
it was a British, A.A. Milne was British, and that people are more precious about it. I do think, I don't know, it probably the viral thing, there are more people in America at the end of the day, so whether proportionally it's just as popular, I've got no idea.
Did you ever see yourself doing horror? Was it a thing, or was it just
it wasn't a thing when
happened?
I started?
You didn't go, I'm going to be a horror.
No, I certainly didn't at the ripe old age of 18. And I think that was probably more to do with the fact that it was such a different business. There was no independent. It didn't exist independent film back then because everything was shot on film, which was very expensive. So everything was big budget, proper big budgets, big telly, big films. And it was only really in the two sort of late 1990s, more 2000s when digital got as good as it did that independent filmmakers started to be able to make their own films on much smaller budgets.
Was you a fan of horror as a child, as 18?
Yeah, I mean, I love film. The only thing probably I'm not so fussed about maybe is, I don't know, I don't want to put anything down, but I wouldn't go and see Fast and Furious.
All right, yeah.
I'm not that fussed about that, and I'm not a huge rom-com. Again, I'll watch them, but I do love pure drama, heavy, dark stories, thrillers, horror. Yeah. But I go to the cinema probably twice a week. I'll see anything really.
Oh, wonderful. So you was Christopher Robin's mum in Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah.
How was that? Because you're a mum yourself, did you find the role really easy because you're a mum yourself?
I did, and also because Scott is he's a friend and like a sort of surrogacy son to me because he's the same age as my son. So I am very, very close to Scott. I'm very fond of him. So being mum to him was something that we talked about before, actually, that wouldn't it be fun to do a film where I was his mum? But he wasn't acting in many of his own films at that point. So this one was just one that when it came up, it was kind of like, right, now's the time to make that happen.
So he kind of already knew when he had this weird imagination of what thing he's like, Nicola's going to be my mum.
Well, I suspect so, but obviously Winnie was Reese's baby. So Winnie 1 was from Reese's imagination. And then and Winnie 2, obviously they collaborated and they wanted to have Christopher Robin in it. So yes, I suspect Scott then would have said, right, he did ask me to play that role. But I think that came after Bambi, funnily enough. Although we filmed Bambi after Winnie, he'd asked me to be in Bambi before then.
Also, they already had kind of the Bambi in the
Bambi
brain
just
before.
took longer to get off the ground, but I'd already agreed to do Bambi before Winnie too.
So obviously these were on small budgets. So how long did they take to film?
Winnie had a longer shoot. Bambi was about 10 days.
Wow.
And now Peter Pan, Pinocchio, and Winnie 3 have all had more like 4 weeks. But we didn't have that luxury on Bambi. Obviously, I was on Bambi for longer. With Winnie 3, I just went in and did my few scenes because they just all take place in one house. So I think I only did 2 days filming, maybe. I was right at the end.
Yeah, I must have missed you because I was at the circus.
Oh, you were on Winnie 3, though.
Yes.
You went to Winnie 3. I'm not. Yeah, I wasn't anything to do with Winnie 3.
Yeah.
Daphne's dead, gone. Well, she's not actually. She's not because it's a prequel, but they don't touch on that story.
All right, so you're definitely not in it.
I'm definitely not in it. Spoiler.
So now with Murray in Bambi, did you have a bit more research? Because obviously Murray's got dementia. Did you have to do a bit of more digging? Because like we just said with Christopher Robin's mum, you're already a mum.
You are just
you know what to do. But with a bit of dementia, you've got to maybe look into it a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, sadly, because I'm the age I am, I've got many friends, parents who've got dementia, and my neighbour across the road, she's died now, she had dementia, and I did keep an eye on her quite a bit. And so the sort of traits and the way of speaking and the sort of gazing off into your own world and sort of muttering has all come from just being around people with dementia. I mean, there's obviously many different types of dementia, but there are traits that you see with some, which I used.
How did you prepare for it though? Like, was it just like you say, mentally?
Yeah, I mean, depending on the role, to be honest, once you put on I mean, Mary looks, bless her, dreadful. By the time I'd got my pajamas on, my slippers on, I mean, I think
you felt depressed.
Rather naff to say once we put our costume on, we find ourselves. But there is an element of that. You know, you wouldn't play Mary if I had my own clothes on now and feel quite the same. But by the time you put all that really downy, as I said, the slippers, the big dressing gown, the cardi, my hair was greyed up. We put a lot of stuff in it to make it quite grey, and it was very sort of greasy, and everything was pulled back. And then extra sort of lines added, although I've got plenty of my own. We did put some more. So by the time then you look in the mirror, you think, Jesus, now I'm there. And so somehow it just happens.
I think the one thing I did like about Bambi, I don't know if Scott or Reese was thinking about it the same because of the dementia, was the connection you had with Bambi.
With Bambi.
Yeah, our viewers might have not seen it, but when they do, if you do watch it, I really like that connection of it. Kind of the Bambi animal, yes, but it kind of felt like it knew you had dementia. If that makes any sense, or
yeah,
I don't know if that's what they were trying to come across with, but
yeah, and also her sort of spirit at one with nature. She'd obviously lived out in the country. You know, she was a real, yes, it was a large house, but she was a proper country estate woman who would have very much respected nature, and I think probably had some idea of what was going on. Again, for those who haven't watched it, I feel it's been out long enough, but there's a sort of extra layer of what's been put in the water. And I think also Dan did sort of play with the idea that, because Mary would have been drinking the water as well. So yes, it could just be dementia. Or could it be that Mary's drunk something that's meant that she's been pushed into some sort of, mental state that wasn't where she should be at that stage? Who knows? Read into it what you want. But I took it. I did just play her as having early onset dementia, because she has lucid moments. So she's not fully gone the whole way.
No.
But she's definitely in that early stages.
It was really good, though. I think it was one of the, probably the, I don't want to say this the others, but it was better because, like, it was, like you say, you felt a more emotional connection. It weren't just about the horror. I think there was more of a story to it.
Yeah, and it's quite unusual to see, well, it's certainly unusual to see a much older female with such a significant part, and certainly somebody who's suffering like that, put into a horror film who's not being the scary person. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes the older female is the really scary one. And although Roxanne used to go, "Oh God, you're bloody terrifying," when we were out in the woods, she wasn't meant to be.
I think because, like you said, because of the white, the grey, and like you said, just the white face and the
eerie.
So you've been on plenty of film sets. What's the best film set you've ever been on?
Ooh. I think different for different reasons. When you're on a huge film set, there is something magical. I mean, really earlier, I think one of my first big films was one called Top Secret, which was directed by the Zucker brothers, who did, and Jim Abrahams did Airplane, and all those sort of funny ones at the time. And we were at Pinewood in the days when Pinewood was buzzing. So, Supergirl was there, one of the Bond films was there. You could walk around. There was none of this security wasn't a big thing. Everyone, cast, crew, used to go to the big, massive dining room canteen for dinner, for lunch. So I think, because that was my first big film, but also it was a massive, massive set. I do love being on it's a bit like the childlike in you. It's a bit like being in Disneyland. I love seeing sets built. I was on one recently, which I'm not allowed to talk about because I've got a big old NDA on it, but it is massive. That will be coming out at the end of the year. And again, just seeing the detail, and you think, I feel like I am actually in this world. And yet, of course, behind it, it's just, balsa wood, and it's incredible what they make.
Well, like you said, Pinewood Studios, you probably, like you just said, Bond's being filmed over there, Supergirl's being filmed over there. So it's it is. It's a completely different world, isn't it?
But again, very different. You wouldn't get that now. They're all shut away in their trailers. They're not going over to the canteen for lunch. It's a bit like in the days when we used to do work at the BBC, and there was BBC rehearsal rooms, and again the big canteen upstairs at, and we'd all just so many different programs, just all rehearsing in different rehearsal rooms and going for lunch in the big old dining hall. Those days were, you wouldn't get that anymore.
The good old days, eh?
Good old days.
So you're in one of my favourite TV shows. I think we'd just done the private signing, and then I
Oh,
came
what was
home,
that?
turned on the TV to watch my favourite episodes, and you popped up, and it was FBI.
Oh, FBI International.
It was, yes. And I was quite shocked because I was like, honestly, no lie, we just got home from the private
How
signing with you.
funny.
And then we thought, oh, we'll watch our next episode. And we switched it on. I was like, she's
There I
there.
was. That was a lovely job. Yeah, that was a really nice job because we filmed that in Hungary.
Yeah,
in
yeah, because they do say that's
Yeah,
where
they-
the Hungary
yeah, I mean,
Budapest.
they used
But so you
Budapest a
actually
lot.
was there? Wow,
Pardon?
so you was actually there. So you was
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Because like I
Yes.
said, they do mention that that's where they're baked. Like not telling you where they film it, but that's where they're supposed to be anyway. They're supposed to be in the
Yes.
show.
Yes, and they have. I mean, obviously, there's lots of things filmed in Eastern Europe because it's cheaper. But certainly in Hungary, there was in Budapest, we were filming on one part of the road, and then literally about 100, 200 yards up, NCIS.
All
That's
right,
how you say it, isn't it? They
Yeah,
were
yeah.
filming, and the people when we were in our hotel, we were chatting to, of all places, in the sauna. There was quite a lot of us, and they were filming another thing. So it's it's full of films people.
But I thought your character was great. I wanted more. I thought they could have used that character for a lot more episodes. They could have done.
Yes. Unfortunately, it's finished.
Yes, it did. Yeah, it did. Yeah, which was very gutting.
Yeah.
But how did all that come about? Because obviously that's like you just said, it's America TV show. It's in Budapest. How did?
They cast a lot of because I mean I was playing English, but even so, even if you are playing American, they were casting during the seasons quite a lot of the support roles from Britain because it's easier just to ship us out to Budapest rather than send people over from America. So a lot of the supporting artists or support roles would have been cast from here. I mean, like we were saying, your agent gets the breakdown and sends you your details to do the tape. So that one wasn't in the room. That was a tape. Yeah.
And had you been to Budapest before, or was it?
I had, yeah.
Oh wow!
I love Budapest, and the four of actually the younger cast, we were all in the hotel together. So I ended up being mum, like to them, and carting them around and showing them because we had quite a bit of free time. So we did a bit of sightseeing.
So then the casting agencies looking for a mum. We've got you here.
Exactly. Perfect. poor old lady with the grey hair. I can.
So what was the difference like from filming on like say UK from UK to USA? What's the film set like? Is there much difference or is there
not too different? It's more the size. When you're on, as I said, when you're on a big TV shoot, so I suppose comparable when I was on Sexy Beast the year before or two, but that was a massive one as well, and that was an American show. Even though we were all British, it was American money. It was for HBO. So when you're on those big ones, it is just the size of the crew. I mean, there's just hundreds of them. It's like you look around when you do your little rehearsal of the scene with the director that she just walks you through and says you sit there then on that line and blah blah blah, and then we do a crew show and just hundreds of people come out the woodwork. Everybody stands around and you show it to them so they all know what's going to be going on, and then you toddle off and they twiddle around with the lighting and then you start doing it. But that's the biggest difference between, and it doesn't matter whether it's American or English. It's just when you're on a big budget thing, it's the amount of people that are involved. Yeah, it's not, as I said, no different whether it's American or British.
I suppose it makes sense, but I didn't actually realise until you said that FBI and NCIS were filming at the same time, kind of thing, and it kind of makes sense. But that's quite interesting to know that.
Yeah. And the people the main cast of FBI, I think that was their 4th year. I mean, they'd had, they completely relocate. They have flats out there, and their family go. But as I said, that one's finished now. So
I suppose that's what's probably a bit strange with, like you said, you're moving. People don't realise you're moving your whole family or whatever.
Yeah.
You move your life, and then that's 6 years, no, 7 years, 7 seasons, I think it went, and then that's it. It's done, and then it's like, what now, kind of thing. Back to. It's crazy, crazy life you lived.
I know.
Is there a genre you've not tackled yet that you'd like to have a go at?
Well, I haven't raced any fast cars apart from some dodgems in a Money Supermarket advert that I'm in at the moment.
There we go. We'll send the call to Vin Diesel.
Yeah.
The next, what is it? Fast and Furious 332.
Yes.
Nicola's right, ready for it.
I do love doing comedy. I mean, I do quite a bit of comedy, and I really do enjoy comedy. As I said, I do like heavy drama. Yeah, I suppose it is. Maybe I'd love to do one that meant I had to go and work. I like being abroad. So when you can couple shooting abroad and working, that's living the dream for me. Even though you might not get a huge amount of time off.
Oh, that was going to be my next question. Do you actually get to see, like, let's use Buddy Pest. Did you actually get to see it while you was filming, or?
I did. We had the weekend off, so I did a couple of days, and then I think I had another day off, or I had a half day. So yeah, I did manage to cram in some time. Yeah.
So, like you say, you are experienced. You've been in the business a long time. I'm not going to say how long.
Don't say how long.
A couple of years. So what's the best advice you could give someone starting out? Like something that you wish somebody would give you?
Oh.
Maybe about the business. Maybe something somebody would have whispered in your ear at 18 and said, don't do this, don't do that, or be careful of this and be careful of that, or take your time with things, maybe, or?
I do think don't put your life on hold. I always have an attitude, we'll cross that bridge. I hear people, I mean, obviously it depends whether you've got any money to do things. I get that. But so many people just stagnate waiting for something to happen. So I think just carry on doing what you love, but also it is a job and a business. So know your worth. And if you have got to do another job, find one that's flexible, because I read sometimes people saying, I don't know, you can't do 2 full-time jobs. There's acting and then there's a job. But you need to do acting, and if you need some extra money, a very flexible job, because you are an actor first, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I asked that question is because I literally saw an interview this morning with Amelia Clark, and she said when she was younger, Game of Thrones, she was not known. They made her do a lot of nude scenes.
Yes.
And she was saying, but when the seasons went on, and like you said, what you just said, know your worth, she realized what she was worth and said, I'm not doing them no more.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, well, you can't do them without, you can't do the show without me, kind of thing. So
yeah, I mean, there is always a difference for the females, for definite. They will get asked, that's almost every main lead part. If you're playing the lead as a girl, that will undoubtedly come up at some point. And some girls don't mind. So you've just got to be comfortable in your own skin. That's the thing.
Well, I think, like I said, it's even though they're 18, I think they get asked a lot more when they're younger and get told. And people might think that, like I said, with Amelia Clark, she was only up and coming. She wasn't known, and it might have been, I need this job kind of thing. You know what I mean? I need this.
Yeah. I know it is. It's hard, but I think and Game of Thrones at the end of the day made her career. There are other people who might make the decision to take their clothes off, and it won't have been groundbreaking. So I would say if it's a huge television show and you're comfortable doing it, go for it. That's because it could well, yeah. But you've just got to make the choices that sit comfortably with you. That's the thing, because what's out there is never going to go away. We know that. I do think the good thing is that people are far more savvy about the seedier sides of the business, and it's more clear. And, you know, we have intimacy coordinators now. It's amazing. So, again, I don't need that because I'm not going to be getting any of those scenes anymore, but they didn't exist back in the day. So I do think things are more comfortable in that respect. But it's just being savvy, having your wits about you and treating it like it's a profession. It is a job and a profession. And I think that's what you need to keep in your mind.
Yeah, I think, like I said, when you're starting out, I think you should just know, like you said, know your worth, but actually know what you want.
Yeah, know what you want, and also keep learning. You know, many people can't afford to go to drama school. I get that. But you do need to do, well, especially if you want to do theatre, but even with film, it's like, even if you're not training, be watching films, learn, you know, absorbing, learning in some way, because you can't just, I don't know. People think it's that easy.
What was it like for your first role? Was you eager to learn? Was you sponging on the first film set or the first TV show or the?
Well, the first job I did was what we call weekly rep. So I went into theatre straight from leaving drama school, and you learn a play during the day, and you're rehearsing ready and then you're doing another play in the evening. So that's
that's a learning lesson.
That's a learning lesson. I think everybody should do that. That definitely gets those lines in your head and makes you think. And it's the same when you're on soap. If you're doing soap and you're doing 3 episodes a week and you're learning those lines, and it's really great. But again, not everybody gets that opportunity. So I fully understand that. First film set, I think I did Dick Turpin was my first ever. I was about 17, 18.
Yes, it was. I saw that yesterday,
Yeah.
Dick Turpin.
So with Lindsay Duncan, who I thought was just gorgeous and glorious. I still am. As I said, I still love being on set, and I think you're always learning. There's always something, whether you're watching other actors, whether you're watching lighting and camera and angles and beginning to understand how you fit in that. Yeah.
Another thing I was shocked about today, which I actually told Will the other day, is you was in Grange Hill.
I was.
I said to Will, that song was going through my head. Yeah, I said the song's going through my head.
Lots of my friends were in Grange Hill. I think we were a veneer. I was with one of my friends yesterday who she went to stage school as well. And there weren't actually as many of us young ones. I mean, it seemed like there was, but we were there was a pool of young actors who we crossed over so many times, and most of my best friends that are in the business were from those early days. There was, you know, friends who went to Anna Scher, and then the friends that were at sort of rival stage schools, and plus my own. But yeah,
he was also in another one of my favourites, which was The Bill.
Oh, we were all in The Bill at some point. Again, The Bill was fantastic because it was a bit like Doctors, which I've also done, where every episode used some actors. So I think it was in The Bill about 4 or 5 times as a different character every time.
I don't think anybody remembered that though, because like you said, if they can bring you back, like we
2
didn't really
years.
do seasons or anything. Just a couple of years, people would have forgot that episodes, and you like you said, you're a new character.
Yeah,
And
that's what
nobody
it was.
went,
2
oh,
years.
well, wait a
and
minute.
you'd be going to your agent. It's been 2 years, isn't it? Time to do another film now. And doctors, as I said, doctors much the same, but those they've gone, and there's not really anything to replace it in that respect.
No, they're not.
No, Holby went,
And it was brilliant TV. And like you said, I think the Bill actually started doing live episodes where I thought that was phenomenal that they was actually showing it live. I thought that was a bit risky, but I think they pulled it off.
Yeah, EastEnders did it as well, didn't they? Live.
They did. That's another one you've been in as well.
Yeah, again, 3 different characters.
You just took it. Have you been in Corrie yet? Or are you just ticking them
Never
off?
done Corrie. No, I haven't. And I've never done Emmerdale.
Neighbours?
No, well, no, I haven't. Although for some bizarre reason, it's on my IMDb, and I have tried to take it off. There's obviously an Australian Nicola Wright. So, folks, it's not me. I wasn't in Neighbours.
I was scrolling through and I thought, how does that just happen? How did you get to Australia and film it?
I have tried. IMDb is a very strange site, and unfortunately, people can add themselves sometimes. But if somebody adds you, you can tell them till you're blue in the face, and they don't seem to take it off. So
they're like, no, there's definitely a Nicola Wright in Neighbours, so that's you, no.
Yeah, that's not me, though.
I'll just take credit for it. For it. Unless she was rubbish, then don't take credit for it.
I don't know who I played.
So what's next for you?
I haven't got anything firm lined up. I just finished a film called Werewolf Soldier about 3 weeks ago, and I've got a few films that are due out. Wuthering Heights, House of the Damned, which I did with Becky produced, and one called The Ungrieved, which Andrew Rolfe produced. So they should be out very soon. And then there's been a couple of films, which is very typical, which the funding has sort of not quite got there yet. So I've got scripts that supposedly I might be attached to, but until they happen, like with anything, till you're actually on that floor on that day with working, you can't really guarantee it.
Do you have a travel bag all ready to?
Oh wait, but yeah. No, I'll just I could do that in 5 minutes.
So you don't have what emergency in the wardrobe ready to go?
But, if anybody said A, a job, or B, just do you want to go away for a weekend, I'll be there.
I think that's what we've talked to a few people about on the other podcasts about how crazy it is that, like you said, you could be off now for 2 days and then just get an email and say, right, we want you filming here.
Yeah.
And
yeah, absolutely.
It's a crazy life.
Yeah. And commercials especially are a very tight turnaround, and often quite a few are abroad. So you might, you'll read your brief to do your tape and it says, flying to, I don't know, wherever next week, and often they don't tell you till quite near the time as well. So yeah, bag packed is probably a good idea.
Like when you're going to the hospital. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
We're coming to the end of the podcast. It's been 45 minutes already. Time has flown by. It's been great having you on, but we do ask for one more favor. Is we have some really, really random questions.
Go on.
From Grogu.
Oh, we've been upgraded.
We've been upgraded. It was the bucket from the Poohniverse a couple of weeks ago, but because the new film's out, we're going with Grogu.
And got it.
I did when I watched the film. There's no popcorn in it.
All been eaten.
Yes, just the questions from Grogu. So these are not from me, I promise you. These are from Grogu.
Go for it.
But they are really, really random, but it's just a bit of fun. So, would you rather have a tail or a third eye? It's a random question, Grogu. But this is why we love these questions, because everybody always has to think about it. We get dead serious.
Well, seeing as I've got a bit of a dodgy eye at the moment, maybe a third eye might be quite useful for me. Although it wouldn't look, if I'm going aesthetics, I'd go with a tail.
At least you can tuck it in.
Yeah,
Nobody
well,
will
yeah,
see
I
it.
think it's just a bit more glam to swish around with a tail rather than having the third eye stuck in the middle of your forehead. So, yeah.
So, question 2: what TV show are you watching now?
Oh, I'm not watching an actual show at the moment. I keep plugging into Storyville on BBC iPlayer, the documentary series. So,
okay,
I'm obsessed with watching Storyvilles and getting angry usually. But anyway, there we go. That's for another podcast.
Question 3: would you rather have a pet dragon or a pet dinosaur?
Dinosaur.
Easy one.
Yeah.
Question 4: are you a morning person or a night owl?
I'm pretty balanced. I mean, I like the morning, but also I suppose morning. Let's say morning, but I will keep going for a long time.
And the last question: do you think aliens exist?
I'd like to.
See what I mean?
I would like to believe they exist, and I would like to believe ghosts exist, but I want proof.
You want access to that Area 51.
Exactly. And whenever I'm staying somewhere spooky, which often we are, and that we're told there are ghosts, I go off in search, and of course I never see anything.
Well, that's all the questions for tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. You've been amazing. Keep doing what you're doing, and we'll keep looking out for your films.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks.